Hey, Marlon, you ready to do this again?
Yes, I am.
Okay, just so everybody knows, I recorded this episode back on Wednesday, the very last week of February, and I was recording it, and some huge audio issues happened, and so I had to bring my guest back on because it was pretty much all unusable. My guest's voice was pristine, and I sounded like the Cookie Monster being put down a food carburetor or something like that. It just sounded awful. So we're doing this again. This is a mulligan. So this is the second mulligan in a row for this show. So I was always wondering when the shoe would drop for my podcast as far as recording, because when I started the podcast, I never had any technical issues whatsoever. I was like, oh, this is going great. I'm great at what I do. And eventually you're going to get got. And I got. And it happened all in the month of February. So this is the second time in a row we're re-recording. So thank you so much, Marlon, for joining. But let's do this. We'll start with the pre-show quid pro quo. Marlon, you get one question. It can be any question in the world. It can be, what is my favorite fish? What am I currently reading? It could be, if I have broken a bone in my body, go ahead. You get one question, and I'll try to answer it honestly.
What is your favorite insect?
Oh, what is my favorite insect? That is an interesting question. Okay, well, it's actually quite easy. I really love ladybugs. I have a thing where
They're so cute.
They're cute, but there's this thing that's been happening to me since I was like 13 years old, and I can remember because I was a very unhappy 13-year-old. And I noticed that when I'm in moments of transition in my life where I really have to think about things, for some strange reason, a ladybug appears like out of nowhere, and they like land on me. It happened when I finished high school and I was completely rudderless. It happened to me in a really, really bad period of my life. I was in Spain. I was in a garden right outside of the Prado Museum, and I was in love with somebody. Things weren't going very well, and I had to come to make a decision in my life, and just a ladybug landed on me. So yeah, it would be a ladybug, because they're really, like, people said, Doug, if you had an animal guide, what would your animal guide be? And as much as I'd like to see something like a wolf or a lemur, because I really love lemurs, truthfully, if I was completely honest with myself, it would be a ladybug, or I think they call them ladybirds in England. But yeah,
That's very sweet.
Yeah, my favorite insect is a ladybug, and it's very odd how they just seem to show up. I can be even indoors, and one will just show up and land on me. It's so bizarre. So,
sign of hope, maybe?
Yeah, it's just something that says, like, you need to take a break, Doug. Listen, just think about what's going on in your life. And when it appears, like, it's so profound to me for just some reason. It's just like a little messenger from the world, and it just says, you know what, Doug, you have to think about things a little bit more. So yes, my favorite insect, and probably my animal guide would be a ladybug.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's a great question. Actually, it didn't take me too long to think about it, but that's a wonderful question. Oh, just before we get going with the episode here and the music kicks in, I have to make a couple of corrections from the last episode. So the 18 plus emails that I received since releasing my last episode involving my unfamiliarity with heavy metal. So just want to put it clear. I made a couple of mistakes here. Forgive me. This month has been wild and wacky. So the first correction is, yes, it is called black metal, not death metal. All right. I get it. The second one is, yes, it came from Norway. It did not come from Sweden. So Mayhem is a Norwegian band. They are not a Swedish band, although I do believe Per Olin is from Sweden, but it doesn't matter. But yes, that is the other correction. Please stop sending me emails, everybody. It's been a bit tired. I thought that boat had sailed, and then I literally got another email this morning. I kid you not, Marlon. Somebody's like, "Hey, dude, you got that wrong." It's like, no.
Maybe it was the black metal with the audio issues.
Oh, who knows? The curse of the black metal. You never know. Yes, so that is a correction. And my final correction for the last episode, the rock and roll and the occult episode, was that I meant to say Howard Hughes as opposed to Howard Hawks. Howard Hughes, the millionaire who built the Spruce Goose, as opposed to Howard Hawks, the wonderful director of The Big Sleep. Anyways, so yes, I apologize for everybody for all of those mix-ups. The heavy metal fans, they are a very specific group. So sometimes you just got to laugh. And if you can't laugh, apparently you start a black metal band. Hey everybody, welcome to What Magic Is This, a podcast that wonders if you've done a reality check recently. Have you? Have you checked your reality? My name is Douglas Batchelor, and in this show, we're going to be talking about magic, the occult, the esoteric, the supernatural, the paranormal, and the weird. Now, if you have never listened to the podcast, basically what I do is that I have a topic and I bring a guest on, and the guest and I, we talk about the topic, but for the most part, I do a lot of the talking. Try to think of it more as like a tutoring session where the tutor will have most of the conversation, but the student, the person being tutored, will chime in if they have a question, and hopefully it gets answered. So for this show, it's going to be a little bit more conversational because I think the amount of things to talk about as far as our topic, it's not that it's slight, it's just that in this instance, I have a very special guest who has a very interesting perspective and experience with our topic. So today I am joined by Marlon. Marlon, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you? Thanks for that intro.
Yeah. Today's topic is going to be lucid dreaming. And
Yes.
the reason that I had you back on the show, because you were a guest on the dreams episode, and I said in that episode, let's have you back on. We're going to talk about lucid dreaming at some point. And I thought this would be a really good time to have Marlon back on because I think that your perspective is indeed an incredibly interesting one. So as far as lucid dreaming is concerned, you have said that you lucid dream every time you dream, each and every time.
Each and every time.
Yeah.
Unless I'm very tired,
Right. Yeah.
I've had too much to drink, buzzed enough to sleep without dreaming.
Right.
That's the only way. But often, yes,
Yeah.
quite often, unfortunately.
Yeah, you say you hate it. You say you're not a fan of your lucid dreaming. Yeah.
No, it's a burden.
Yeah.
It's a burden. You feel like you don't sleep. You wake up tired.
So it's like you have this other life, a completely different life that is like taxing on you, and that you go there when you're supposed to be relaxing. You're just supposed to drift off into the land of Nod, but your land of Nod it's a busy, busy place.
It's a busy place. Doesn't sleep.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. But we'll get into it a little bit more because the first time we recorded, there was a bit of like a revelation on my end. It's just like, holy smokes, because the way that Marlon lucid dreams is actually incredibly interesting, and we'll get into it. So hang in there, everybody. But Marlon's way of lucid dreaming, how she lucid dreams, is incredibly fascinating. So first of all, let's get into it. Are you ready, Marlon?
I am super ready. Thank you.
All right. So lucid dreams, what are they? It is basically when you are dreaming that you are aware that your thoughts and your actions feel like you are within the dream itself. Now, it allows you to control some of your actions, not all the time, but a lot of the time. It's you being able to control what is going on in your dream, and you're aware of it. It's a different part of your consciousness, right? You're actually almost living in your dreams. Sometimes just being aware of being lucid, but not having any control is part of lucid dreaming. And some people just say that they're in their dream, they're lucid, but they can't really change too much. Like they're aware of what's happening, but they can't do too much. It was a bit disappointing because I think a lot of people, when they think of lucid dreams, they think that they can become like a superhero, or they're in like an action movie. They're John McClane from Die Hard, and they're like, yeah, I can take control, and I'm going to cause this group of zombies to explode just by pointing my finger at them, pew pew, pew, kind of thing, right? And so I think a lot of people think that that's what lucid dreaming is, and in a way, it definitely is. Those are lucid dreams. Now, there's a couple of ways people can become lucid. And I just want to bring up two right off the bat. So there's dream-induced lucid dreaming. That is when your dream is going along perfectly fine. You're somewhat distanced. You're a bit detached. And then something happens in your dream that triggers you to become lucid. Your dream is totally not within your control. And then something happens. And then next thing you know, it's like, wow, I am here. I have some kind of control over what I'm doing. So that is called dream-induced lucid dreaming, DILD. And the thing to remember about that is, there's something within the dream that triggers it. There's also wake-induced lucid dreaming. So this is where you move from a waking state, as in you are awake, and then you just glide right into your dream and you're lucid. Now, this is an incredibly strange phenomenon. I've been able to do this a couple of times, basically with a technique that a gentleman I'm going to talk about a little bit later, his name is Robert Wagner, talks about. When you feel like you're going to fall asleep, you start counting down. So you go, 1, I am dreaming. 2, I am dreaming. 3, I am dreaming. And then eventually you'll be like, 4, I am dreaming. And then you're actually there and you're in your dreams. So, Marlon, have you experienced wake-induced lucid dreaming at all?
No. It sounds so interesting.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's almost like, I think I've described this to you before. It's almost like you're climbing up a ladder, you know what's about to come.
Yeah.
You are about to reach the edge, and then you get full control of something.
Yeah,
mine are more the dream-induced, like you described.
So it's just like something triggers, and then you're just there. Do you start your dreams lucid? Are you straight in and lucid like right off the bat?
Majority of the time, that's how I recall them.
Yeah,
it's kind of like going to bed and then opening your eyelids, and then you're in this dream world. It's very lucid.
Yeah.
If I'd had to recall,
Incredible.
Which is why I don't know what techniques I have that leads me to this to this lucidity. I know people ask, what can I do? Right. For me, it's just trying to go to sleep.
Just trying to get there, right? I've got a couple of questions for you, just a little bit, but I just want to get the history out of the way first, really quickly here. So the term lucid dream came from a Dutch psychiatrist by the name of Frederik van Eeden. That's Eeden. In 1913, he had an essay called A Study of Dreams, in which he used the term lucid in it. And it's a bit of a misnomer. What he was actually talking about was a little bit different than what we it was actually a bit more specific than what we consider a lucid dream. But for some reason, the term, it really just stuck, lucid dream. And it's a great term. I really love the term lucid dream because it really does feel as real as life. It feels sometimes it feels more real than life. Marlon, do you ever feel that? Sure. Like, does it actually feel like what's occurring when you're lucid dreaming is actually like more real than your wake-a-day life?
Yeah, it feels that way. Yeah. It's kind of anxiety inducing in ways because of how real it seems.
Yeah.
Even more. Yeah.
Yeah. What can you do? So the question is that when have we been able to lucid dream? Chances are we've been able to lucid dream for as long as we've been dreaming. Truthfully, we don't have records of it. Just going to say that. Now, as far as the East has been on the lucid dream train for so long. The Buddhists have utilized it, as well as those who are Hindu. It's something called yoga nidra, I believe, and it's basically yogic sleep. And it's said that it is as old as yoga itself. Lucid dreaming is brought up as well in the Mahabharata, in which it says that the deep sleep under the spell of spiritual meditation. And I think this is the idea of the same thing as like wake-induced lucid dreaming, where it's a meditation and then eventually your meditation like glides into the lucid state, right? So that's wicked. And again, the East, as far as consciousness studies, they have been there far longer than we have in the West, apparently. Like this is their bread and butter, and it's so great that there's such a tradition of it there in India and in China and elsewhere. But yeah, they've been there for longer than we have. Wow. Aristotle. I just like saying Greek words and pronouncing Greek names wrong because people do email me about Doug, it's Plotinus, it's not Plotinus, like you said in your Neoplatonism episode. And it's like, I really don't care. It really pisses people off, especially the classicists. So Aristotle, he used to talk about how he would have these lucid dreams. It was also brought up by St. Augustine as well. And even the 17th century Randy Oldsod, that was the diarist Samuel Pepys, he would talk about it being lucid, and he would usually talk about sometimes he would have these naughty dreams. He would do naughty things when he was in lucid dreaming. And I'm just going to say this, at least in my experience, sex in lucid dreams is like incredibly disappointing, but that just might be me. Maybe I'm putting myself out and this might be a bit of TMI, but I'm just going to say lucid dream sex, for me,
it's really weird.
It's not so good.
No.
You've experienced this?
Yes, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a really bad film production sex scene.
Yeah.
It's just the.
It's just like, and enough of that. At least that's what I found. Is like, okay, like I thought that this would be fun, and it really wasn't. Just, I'm gonna, I don't know, I'm gonna go fly, or I'm gonna be able to breathe underwater now, because that's far more interesting than having sex with Marilyn Monroe while I'm lucid.
Right.
Definitely not speaking from experience there. Anyways. Okay. Now, so I'm going to ask, like, whether or not people, when they had visions back in the day, whether these were lucid dreams, that like they were talking about having lucid dreams when they would have visions of angels or things of that sort. Now, I think that this explanation is just far too easy. I don't think it explains everything. Not to say that it definitely didn't happen. It certainly did happen, but I don't think it explains everything. And I think that in a way, somebody like Emanuel Swedenborg, although we can think that he certainly would go into like a hypnagogic state, which is that state that you're in before you start to dream. But I also think that a lot of, not a lot, but some of what Swedenborg was talking about when he would visit different planets and stuff like that, I think sometimes that was a lucid dream as well. Here's something that, just a bit of a side journey here. There is something called the Benedenti, who were called good walkers. They were a 16th, 17th century Northern Italian cult. They said that they would battle evil forces like witches in their sleep. And if they would win these battles, then they knew that the harvests that year in Northern Italy would be fruitful. They would be good. If they would be losing the battle, then they knew that the crops would fail. They wouldn't be as bountiful as they were had they won. And I don't hear this brought up a lot, but I'm wondering, because the techniques of lucid dreaming are something that can be taught. And we know that the Benedenti would each other how to go into these dream states to fight these evil forces, whether or not that they were actually talking about lucid dreaming. Anyways, it's something that I think that a thread could certainly be pulled there, but if you're interested in the Benedenti, you must read Carlo Ginzburg. Yes, it's very interesting stuff. So for all intents and purposes, modern study of lucid dreaming begins on April 12, 1975 at the Department of Psychology at the University of Hull in England. Alan Worsley was the test subject being monitored by Keith Hearn. Now, Alan Worsley he could lucid dream, and Keith Hearn was, the person studying him. They had an experiment in which they would try to figure out whether you could be conscious while you were dreaming. Now, how would you know about this? You see, your body does certain things when it goes into a sleep mode. It basically almost shuts off completely, except for two parts of the body. And Marlon, what two parts of the body, being somebody involved in health, what two parts of the body do not shut off?
Your breathing and your eye movement.
That's right. Your breathing and your eye movements.
Maybe some people may not know that their eye moves. Like I don't think that I knew.
Yeah, really? You didn't know about rapid eye movement?
No.
Really?
Not tied lucid dreaming.
Okay, yeah.
But you'd think that you'd be active when you're lucid.
Yeah. Yeah, it's strange. Actually, I haven't seen a lot of information about people that sleepwalk in lucid dreams. I think that there must be some kind of study out there. Darn, I wish in between the first recording and the second recording that I could have remembered that, because there's got to be some kind of a strange correlation between people that lucid dream and people that sleepwalk. Anyways, back to the story. Yes, your breathing and your eyes, they don't shut off. So Alan and Keith, they came up with a way of being able to tell when somebody is lucid in a dream state by moving their eyes. They came up with an eye pattern. So before Alan would fall asleep, they decided that they would come up with a thing where he would be able to move his eyes left to right. So left, right, and he would do this 8 times in a very specific way. Left, right, left, right, left, right, 8 times, right? So Alan apparently went to sleep. It was all good. He entered REM. It was all good. And then that thing happened where he kind of slowed down. Then yes, he did that specific pattern, left, right, 8 times. And an EEG machine confirmed that he indeed did do this. 3 years later, for his doctoral dissertation at Stanford University, Stephen LaBerge, he did basically the exact same process. He was a bit more thorough in how he was testing it, but it was certainly undeniable that you can be conscious and asleep at the same time. Now, there was still some skepticism and, of course, some apathy within the scientific community, but LaBerge's experiments weren't confirmed. They weren't confirmed as being actually true until 2004. That was like 17 years ago. Wow. So this is something, this whole apathy
Poor
about
guy.
dream. He did get his doctorate, and he was one of those people. He's one of those superstars of lucid dreaming. He has got these great talks. He's a really interesting and animated guy. But yeah, he knew that he was right. And it just wasn't until 2004 that some people were like, hey, let's try and confirm his experiments here in Germany, of all places. And they went, yep, no, Stephen, he knew exactly what he was doing. So that's basically the history of lucid dreaming in a nutshell. So Marlon,
yes,
I really want people to get this, because your specific way of lucid dreaming is very unique. Now, before we get into it and the actual details of how you lucid dream, I just want to know, have you always been a lucid dreamer? Like, as long as you can remember, have you been?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I started paying attention to it when I was around 14, 15, perhaps, maybe even earlier. Prior to that, I don't know, but I would assume based on how I've been, I just, all of a sudden I lucid dreamt. And I remember telling you it started shortly after I immigrated to Canada.
Right.
I kind of tied it to, maybe it was stress, some of the traumas we might have gone through.
Because you came originally from Iraq, did you not? Yeah. Which
exactly.
At a very interesting point in their history.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had a long journey.
Yeah.
The way we got here, we're grateful, but it obviously came with a lot of trauma and stress. So that's when I paid attention to it. And I think I had talked about dreams with a friend. I was so young.
Right.
I had this kind of dream. And that's when I discovered that other people dream differently, especially when I describe how I dream.
So I want you to describe for people how you dream. This is insane to me. Sorry, it's not insane again in a negative way, but it's just when people think about lucid dreams, again, they think that they can be like a superhero, that they can fly. They become Ash from the Evil Dead, and they can attach a chainsaw to their hand and go around killing demons and stuff like that, which for a lot of people, when they lucid dream, you can do that to a certain extent. But your variety of lucid dreaming is incredible. Can you describe for people what it's like?
It's quite as real in a humanly possible as it can get. I always say that it's an alternate reality for me. I don't have any superpowers, although that sounds a lot of fun. That people can chase zombies or run with zombies.
Yeah.
Mine is very much, you're the director of a film set, and you're dictating who moves what, who speaks when, what they look like, what type, what color eyes they've got, what color shoes they've got on.
Their socks colors.
What are they saying? And their as detailed as looking down at someone's shoes and seeing the color of their socks.
Wow. So you're like the Stanley Kubrick of lucid dreaming. Like, you control every element of a lucid dream to the detriment of the characters and the actors that are in your dreams, right?
Yes, correct.
Wow, that's insane.
And again, awesome. I didn't know that not every lucid dreamer dreamt about real life events or as superficially as they can be.
Yeah.
They were still involving humans with no powers.
Yeah. So when you say like a movie set, are these like places that you've been recently? Where's the sets?
Not all the time.
Not all the time.
The environment, the sets changes, familiar and not sometimes dreamt up. This is what I imagine a beach in Tahiti would be.
Oh, really? But at least you get to go to the beach. That's pretty cool. That's pretty special. Yeah.
Exactly. There's a mix of familiar. It depends what the storyline is. If it's something that happened earlier in the day or recently that I'm just continuing or maybe trying to change the narrative, then it's the same environment, same setting. Otherwise, if it's dreamt up, it's like, oh, we're on a beach in Tahiti.
Yeah. And do you get to choose what characters are there? Like, do you choose the actors? Are you the casting director as well? Or are they just people that just show up?
most of the time it feels like these characters just show up. I remember there's often times where I'm so lucid in the storyline and all of a sudden something random happens, and even in my dream I'm like, well, this is random. Like you just popped up and ruined the whole story. So now I have to follow you
And
and see where this takes me.
and you can't stop it. You can't just be like, be gone, and it goes away. You kind of have to go
Sometimes
with
it
it.
does. If I find myself being in a distressful situation or something that's not intriguing or I'm bored, the
Yeah.
story can just change. I can just be like, all right, let's move on to we're in Disneyland, or, we're sleeping in a bed. It's really
Wow.
random.
And how much control do you have, basically? Like you said that you can control like the details, but
Hmm.
can you control how much you want to do a certain thing in your dreams? Like, is it like,
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
yeah?
Mostly with talking, characters talking.
So it's
And the,
okay, right? When we last recorded, I said like, can you fly and stuff like that? And you're like, no, I can't do that. So that you don't
no,
have that much control.
no I think I told you, no superficial or supernatural powers or anything weird,
Mm,
in the sense that I cannot do on Earth.
right, right,
So I have the human powers that I have on Earth, basically. So it's very realistic
yeah.
in a sense that none of my characters fly or do anything like or breathe underwater either. It's
No,
all very much borrowed storylines from my daily life.
huh? That's incredible. Now, I'm just going to divert for a second here. Stephen LaBerge actually found that dream control and dream awareness are connected somehow, but they are not necessary requirements of each, basically. So that
Yeah.
most people choose to just observe their lucid dreams as opposed to just take control of it in
Hmm.
some way. So, truthfully, like yours is a little bit different.
Hmm.
Have you had times where it's hard to distinguish when you're dreaming and when you're not? I don't know if I'm out of my dream yet. Like, do you have that? Has that ever? Because you talk about your lucid dreaming as being just like another slice of
Hmm.
reality. Like,
Hmm.
how tough is it? Metaphor I used last time is that to think
Right.
of all of time as like a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
It's all one thing, but your segment of reality, what you call your dimension, is just one slice of bread. And maybe when you
Right.
go into your dream state, that's a different slice of bread, but kind
Mhm.
of the same reality. Like, have you ever had trouble distinguishing when you're not dreaming? Like, is it just like, am I still there?
No, surprisingly, no.
Okay.
I've always woken up and said, all right, first of all, I feel like I haven't slept. I'm already
Yeah.
in a bad mood. And I can immediately recall some details of my lucid dreams. So I knew it was
Right.
I guess the major difference for me would be, even though you're lucid dreaming and it feels real,
Mhm.
the lens, and I'm going to say the lens, like
Yeah.
as an observer,
Right.
it's not as clear as it is through my normal eyes.
Right.
The colors are brighter.
Yeah.
There's maybe like some hue around this lens that I'm seeing through. So it appears slightly different, and I can differentiate that way.
It's skewed in a way, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. It's just,
yeah.
it's different.
Just superficial things.
Right. Can you share any of the more memorable lucid dreams that you've had recently or even in the past?
One recently, which has never happened to me before, is that I had most of my lucid dreams are in line with my current age and my current environment and what's going on in my life.
Right.
Recently, I've had a lucid dream where I was 5 or 6 years old.
Aw, young
That
Marlon.
never very young. That's never
Yeah.
happened before.
Right.
And that story was borrowed from a memory I had just walking through in northern Iraq. Both sides of my grandparents live within minutes of walk of each other, and my parents and I would often walk the distance from one side of the grandparents to the next.
Okay.
And this dream was silent. There's
Mm.
no music playing in the background. There's no chatter. There's no noise, environmental noise or anything. It's silent, and it's just me. I can see the full body of me as a child just
Right.
walking and skipping through this route
Huh.
that I'm taking, and that's never happened.
How did you feel when you
So
woke up?
it felt good in a way. It
Yeah.
brought some nice memory. I think it
Uh-huh.
happened for a reason.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. And it was a bit, I felt a little uneasy at first. I'm like, I've never had that before. What does that mean? You ask yourself a lot of these
Right.
questions, you try to dissect it.
Yeah.
But because I find lucid dreaming a bit of an annoyance, I'm just like, whatever. We'll think about it. We'll think about it later.
I think that's wonderful. Now, we talked about this a little bit previously. But when you experience your lucid dreams, you're in like your eyes, right? Like you're in your body. You can see your hands in front of you.
Yes, it's
And
the point of view of my eyes.
yeah. So it's like first person point of view. With this dream though, that you said it was almost like you were seeing yourself when you were younger. Were you in your body, or was it like a camera was like behind you in some way, like a third person
No,
point of view?
it was first person, but I could
Okay.
see this child in front of me, and that child is me.
Wow.
Yeah. I've never seen, that's why I had asked, had you ever seen yourself, your reflection in your lucid dreams? And for me, I've never had that.
Yeah.
Other than that, I've never there was never a moment where I
Okay.
looked in the mirror or had a reflection pop up. It's always first person.
Since we recorded, I actually was going through some of my dreams, and I remembered seeing my reflection once, but not in a mirror. I actually saw it in a fountain. I was looking into a fountain and saw my reflection. Yeah.
Okay.
So I have seen my reflection, but just not in a mirror, strangely enough.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things where it's like I've never
thought about
bothered
it
to look at a mirror. I'm too busy being kick-ass. I'm too busy being like in an action movie, right? Like
and going to black metal.
Yeah, I'm going to black metal concerts, right? I want to see Cannibal Corpse. Oh, sorry, that's death metal, everybody. I don't even know what that is. Anyways, I'm not bitter. I am not bitter.
No.
I'm kidding. I love all of you guys. You guys are great. Thanks for keeping me honest and keeping me and factually correct. So I have one last question. Have you ever met anyone else with this ability to not only just lucid dream every time that they dream, or being able to almost like direct your dream like a Steven Spielberg of lucid dreaming? That's basically it. Have you met anybody else with this ability?
No. With my specific way of lucid dreaming, no, not specifically. I mean, I'm sure I could find people online if I really did some digging.
Right.
The other person I know in life that has had experience with lucid dreaming, but I'm mostly on Reddit reading people's posts about how to achieve lucid dreaming, staying lucid for as long as possible. But I haven't done enough digging, I'll be honest.
No. For those of us not as lucky as Marlon, and I say that not in like a glib way because I have not lived your existence, obviously, but I think it would be interesting to only be able to lucid dream. But I can see how in your case it would be exhausting, just this different slice of reality that's not that much different than the reality that you live when you're awake, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, but I hate to say it, like that's from what I understand. This is a very unique way that you dream. So, there's ways that one can get lucid. And I think that there's a couple of things that people need to know. I'm not going to run through all of them, but there's some specific stuff. And the first one is to remember your dreams. Have a dream journal. A couple of months ago, when I was recording the first episode of Dreams with Marlon, I actually played for her some audio of my dreams, and she laughed. She laughed at my dreams.
It was funny at first, but it's such a cool idea.
Yeah.
Kind of not creepy maybe, but weird to think that I want to listen to myself wonder like what I'm dreaming about. I don't know. It's something that feels really unsettling.
Well, it's really interesting because the way that I do dream journaling is, I keep a recording device next to my bed. So as soon as I know that I'm awake-ish, I just have it to reach over and I just start recording. And I'm in a state called hypnopompia. And this is basically the state. Hypnagogia is before you fall asleep, that weird kind of twilight state. And then hypnopompia is when you're just coming out of that dream world. So it's almost like a different person is talking. Because I don't know if you remember that, but I almost don't recognize that voice talking because he's got a very different cadence. Like my voice is usually very, very, very deep, right? And when I'm trying to talk. When I first wake up, but it's
quite different.
It is, and it's almost like I'm a totally different person, which I think has some kind of ramifications. But yes, remember your dreams. Get better at remembering your dreams. A dream journal always necessary. I recommend dream journals for everybody. Fantastic. Another thing that's quite important is to have an intention. Now, more than magic, there's a lot of talk these days of intention and magic, which is important as well. But I think for lucid dreaming, it is vital. You have to kind of make it the dominant idea in your day to ramp yourself up to be able to lucid dream at night. So one of the ways of doing this is something called a reality check. And the reason I opened up the show with a joke about checking your reality is that it's a technique whereby when you are awake, to do certain things at certain times to just make sure that you're not in a dreaming state. Now, the one that everybody knows about, because I think it was brought up, Richard Linklater's film Waking Life. Have you seen Waking Life at all, Marlon?
I have not.
No? Okay. Yeah, it's an interesting little ditty of a film. It's
How old is it?
I believe it was released in 2001.
Waking Life?
This is Video Store Doug, Casablanca Video Store
Yes.
Doug talking here. I believe it was either 2001 or even 2000. But in the film, he talks about lucidity and the lucid dream. The whole film is like a dream, and it's animated very beautifully. People shit all over it, but I actually think it's one of the most brilliant movies ever made. But that's just Doug talking. But he talks about flicking a light switch on and off. And if you flick a light switch on and off during your day, just to make sure that the lights are going on and off, in a dream, apparently when you flick a light switch, nothing happens, right? It's always just like a certain kind of lighting in your dream. You don't have that much control over it. So that's something that you can do. There's also a thing where you can look at your hands. And if you look at your hands at a certain time throughout the day, in your lucid dream, your hands do weird things. My hands once, when I remembered to look at them while I was lucid dreaming, my fingertips, when I was staring at my hand, my fingertips kind of turned into wrists, and then small little hands grew on the tips of my fingers.
That's so creepy.
Yeah, it's very creepy. But yeah, and when that happened, it's like, okay, I'm lucid. Like, I'm very definitely lucid.
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, you never know.
COVID-19
These days.
side effect.
Yeah. But there's that. There's also one that's pretty cool. This is the one that I use normally because it's not as creepy as the stuff that happens with your hands, and it's not as banal as something that like turning on a light switch. Because I always forget about the light switch stuff. Is to take your finger and try and poke it through your open hand. Your hand's open, and try to push it through your palm. If you can push it through your palm, you know that you're lucid dreaming. Now, they say to do these reality checks every time something happens in your waking life, like every time you go through a doorway, every time you see a dog or even a dog on television, anytime that you hear music that you haven't started, that you do one of these reality checks. Either check the lights or try to poke your finger through your hand. And this is a way of being able to keep the thought of being lucid when you sleep that night a dominant intention in your day. So yes, there's many different techniques for lucid dreaming, and they vary greatly. For myself, I really didn't get cooking with gas as far as lucid dreaming until about 2008. Yeah, 2008. When I got really, really good at it. And what worked for me is called sleep, wake, sleep. It's where I go to sleep. I haven't watched any TV for like 3 hours before going to bed, not even looked at my phone, usually very calming music, just taking my time, watering my plants, talking to them, that kind of fun stuff. And then I go to sleep, but I set an alarm for about 2.5 to 3 hours after I go to bed. And it wakes me up, and I get up. I go into a different room, totally different room. And I just start doing something. It's either like a drawing. I don't look at my phone. I don't turn on the TV. I just do some more stuff. Maybe talk to my plants a little bit more. I don't do that. And then after about 20 minutes to half an hour, I go back to sleep. I go back to bed. And then usually I can be right into either a DILD, which is the dream trigger into lucid dreaming. But I've also done it, and specifically with the sleep, wake, sleep, the wake-induced lucid dream, where I can count down 1, I am asleep, 2, I am asleep, 3, I am dreaming, 4, I am dreaming, 5, I am dreaming. Like, that is like the best way of doing that. And it's so awesome when like the things around you just go like poof, and you're into your lucid dream. It's like putting a quarter in one of those arcade machines and just like plink, there you go, and you're off in your world.
That sounds so much work. I'm sorry. I said it sounds like a lot of work. But then for people like me, they just can't control it.
I know. Well, you're lucky. I know you don't think you are, but you are lucky, Marlon. Like it is a lot of work, and lucid dreaming truly is work. This is something I'll touch on a little bit later, but most people will have a lucid dream without ever like trying to get one. Like the people will just become lucid out of the blue, right?
Right.
But to be able to lucid dream on a somewhat consistent basis, that actually does take work. Right. It does take the reality checks. It takes not drinking stimulants. That's another thing that I think is really, really important. I don't have any stimulants throughout the day. I find that fasting, not eating during the day, like at all, actually helps quite a bit. And even if I'm not lucid by fasting. My dreams are crazy anyways, so
Wow.
it's really, really interesting. I also find that when I do the sleep, when I go back to bed the second time, I lie on my back. I don't like lying on my back when I sleep. I'm usually like sleeping on my side. For some reason, lying on my back with my arms kind of like a body sitting in a coffin. Make of that what you will, people, says the necromancer. But my arms are kind of crossed over my chest. Each kind of hand is almost just right on my shoulder. And then, I can go into a lucid state pretty quickly. So many techniques. I'm not going to go through them all. You really have to find out what works for you. I can't just be like, do this, and you'll get lucid.
Right.
It's reading like 6 or 7 different books and finding the techniques that work, right? And eventually you get there. So, yes, not everybody is as lucky as Marlon with this. There is something.
Maybe when I was younger, it did start with a dream-induced cycle, and I just didn't notice it.
Right.
It's intriguing.
Very intriguing. I hope that this episode really makes you want to investigate your dreaming states a little bit more because, it is quite fascinating. There's this thing, and I talked with you a little bit about it last time, but it is called Galantamine. Also, it came up in an episode that I did with Ren Collier on journeying. I think it was the first time that I heard about it. But it is an Alzheimer's drug. It was made for people who are suffering from Alzheimer's. In a 2018 experiment, they had 121 people. They were administered galantamine, and they found a 42% increase in people getting to a lucid state in their dreams, including people who had never had a lucid dream before, at least none that they could remember. So that's something that I think is worth a try. And Marlon works in the health industry, so I've slipped her a couple of bucks so that she can get me some of this galantamine because it sounds incredible. A 42% increase in people's ability to lucid dream. That's pretty good. That's almost half, right?
I wonder how that happens.
Yeah, I think maybe this is something that you might be able to look into because it affects a certain part of the receptors within the brain.
Right. I imagine.
Yeah, and I think that it's one of those things. I'm not saying that you're abnormal. You have a abnormal brain chemistry or abnormal brain. That's a young Frankenstein joke, but it's an interesting one because it does do something very specific within the brain, and I totally forget which one it is. Yeah, they found that when people were administered these drugs. And even Ren on the Journey episode was talking about it. He's like, he's tried it. Definitely did something. Like he's got an experience with out-of-body experiences as well. Right. So he said that as far as lucid dreaming, galantamine is pretty cool. So what happens when lucid? For Marlon, it's that she's a director, right? Like she has this very, very specific, almost like a different dimension of interacting in her dreams. And you actually have one detail that you didn't talk about earlier that I think talking about creepy and the growing on the hands, but you have something according to what you said last time about what people do in your dreams before.
Right. Yeah. Right. So I think we were talking about if anything in my background seems out of place or is everything, as it seems in reality. And the only odd thing that I've noticed that's been happening is that my lucid dreams often involve people talking, a lot of people talking all the time almost.
Right.
And when they're not speaking or as I like to say that it's not their role to speak, they're just standing there like mannequins.
Right.
It's just what we call in my line of work, just like a flat affect. There's just no emotions in their face. It's like they're frozen almost.
A store mannequin,
it's like
right?
They get activated when it's their turn to speak or do an action or play their role.
So how do they activate? Do you activate them? Do you be like, you speak? Like, is that like, or is it just you turning your gaze to them?
Like it's pretty much the gaze thing. And
really?
You look at them and you're like, obviously, come on, go speak. And you know what to say. And it just feels like you have this godly power of,
right.
Maybe I'm not able to fly and I'm not able to do certain things, but I have this God complex apparently where I just look at something or person and it speaks.
You said something last episode where, I don't want to use the term control freak, but you do. Yeah. You do like to be in your regular life. You do like to be in control of the situation all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And I always wondered if these dreams happen the way they do because I am such a OCD freak with certain things. And maybe there was a situation I didn't have full control over it. And it's quote unquote comes back to haunt me. And here's a lucid dream about it. And and here I am in control in this scenario, in
I
this
wanna
alternate reality.
What if it's the other way around, Marlon? What if you are the way that you are in real life because of your dreams?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I've read a lot of books, and, being Middle Eastern, you
Okay.
get told all these stories about
Yeah.
how I grew up, my grandparents going, oh, if you dreamt about this, it means, there's money coming. Or if you dreamt
Right.
about, they placed a lot of meaning behind how you dreamt,
Mhm.
who appeared in your dream, and what they might mean. And that, yeah, maybe our dreams pretty much is how I'm supposed to be in real life. Who knows?
Right. Yeah.
It's not far-fetched, maybe.
Nothing's far-fetched in this day and age. Not when you start
Yeah,
looking into it and investigating.
exactly.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
You talk about this idea of control and how you don't have this ability to like fly or breathe underwater. I think one of the things that I do need to touch on here is this idea that, because I found it very, very difficult to stay lucid when I started lucid dreaming because I was so excited. Again, my
Mm-hmm.
entire day is oriented around, I walk through a doorway. I try to push my finger through my palm. Okay, it doesn't go in. And then I see a dog. Try to push my finger through my palm.
Yeah.
That when I finally become lucid, I'm like, yay, I'm lucid. I can be Batman and Superman all rolled into one. And then as
Right.
soon as I do that, I snap out of my dream and it's like, and I'm back to just like totally distanced, just like I get sucked out again. But there's this thing that Stephen LaBerge talked about. As soon as you become lucid, just kind of like start like doing a slow spin, almost like a pirouette, and that will just ground you a little bit. It'll just like kind of bring things down.
Mm-hmm.
Also, what's interesting is that each and every time you go into the lucid dream state, at least when in my experience, it's like I get a new set of rules about the physics and the laws of this dream territory, and learning how to become acquainted with it is really, really
Mm-hmm.
cool. Like, it's learning how to fly in a lucid state is really interesting. It is literally like, if you've seen anything about how Superman learns to fly kind of stuff,
Right.
it's really like that. Oh, wow. Like, I need to do this and then I need to do this. It's kind of like,
You know those jetpack things? Is that what
yeah,
they're called? What people wear? You
yeah,
see them. They're
jetpacks.
often in Florida.
Yeah.
Sorry, Florida. And they're practicing over water, like it kind of
Mm,
takes you out. Does
yeah.
it seem that way?
No, it almost seems like I'm trying to figure out how the physics work, right? Like, I know
Mm-hmm.
that I can fly. It's like figuring out how to get there. Probably the best analogy, maybe not just Superman, is like the very first Matrix film when Morpheus jumps across two buildings and then Neo tries to jump across the two
Mm-hmm.
buildings. He just like falls to the ground. It's like
Mm-hmm.
trying to learn the reality of the Matrix world, right? Like,
Right.
so yeah, it's not so much like I can only get like 6 feet in the air and then you land. It's more just like I need
Right.
to figure out and make the physics okay in my head to be able to learn the
Right.
territory of the nature of the laws of this dream world to get there. But it's
Find the formula almost.
that's right. Yes, just I
Yeah.
have to crack the code of how to
Yeah.
to fly. It was literally a series of lucid dreams that caused me to be interested in magic and the occult. And the most vivid of
Hmm.
this was one where I was I started dreaming and I was in the outdoors where I grew up in Kananaskis in Alberta, and I learned how to fly. And what was great is that I was flying over all the trees, and then there would be these wonderful blue azure lakes that were in the tops of the mountains, and I could fly into the lake and blast out again. It was
Mm.
just like the most amazing, more real
Wow.
than real. But yeah,
That's an experience.
it certainly is. And one of these, Marlon, I'm going to get you flying in your dreams. I'm going to get you blasting away zombies with
Go
your
to flying
shotguns.
school. We'll
Yes.
get it. Yes.
So, as far as how to lucid dream well, there's so many books. The techniques, they're kind of prosaic, so I'm not going to go into it further because, yeah, it's not that interesting. But I will point out some good resources in the show notes. Let's talk about a bit of the weird shit because people love the weird shit. So, I'm going to relate a story from Robert Wagner, who's one of the more notable figures within the world of lucid dreaming. He's written a couple of books. One of them is called Lucid Dreaming, Gateway to the Inner Self, which is definitely worth a read. But he brings up a really interesting situation in this book. Here it is. Dreamworker and minister Jeremy Taylor tells the surprising story of lucid dreamer Dan, who dreams that he attends a lively party at a fashionable penthouse. Suddenly, Dan realizes that he's actually sleeping at a cheap rented room in Chicago and becomes consciously aware. Lucid, now, Dan finds an attractive woman sitting on his lap and asks him if he is having a good time. He He laughs and replies that he is having a great time, but that he will have to leave soon. His alarm is about to go off and wake him up. The woman asks him in surprise what he means, and he replies that all this is a dream and none of it is real. You mean to think that I'm not real? The woman asks in some annoyance. That's right, he replies. With this, the woman becomes even more annoyed. I'll show you who's real or not, she says, and crushes her lit cigarette out on the back of the dreamer's right hand. Instantaneously, the young man awakens in the rented room with a terrible pain in his right hand. He turns on a light and sees a round burn the size of a cigarette on the back of his right hand.
Wow.
Now,
Wow.
there are groups that are doing studies in scientific laboratories about lucid dreaming, always around the world. They're not as notable as, say, other studies done. But there's also groups of people that get together, and they're usually very closed groups. They don't do a lot of talking. They're very, very private. But they do share, quite a few of them, they do share stories about this kind of thing happening, where a injury or something in their dream, their lucid dream, will occur, and then they manifest something physically in the real world. And this has also been noticed in such things as hypnosis as well. I have a story that happened, it would have been about 6 or 7 years ago. I had just moved into my new place, and I was alone, and I was lucid dreaming. I'd really worked for my lucid dream. I do a lot of work. And so I was like, yes, I was lucid. And at some point in my dream, right before I woke up, my nose started bleeding. And it was just one of those things. So I'm able to control my dreams and what happens in my dreams. So I literally was just like, I wiped my hands and I stopped myself from bleeding. And then I went around doing what I normally do in lucid dreamland. But then I woke up, and I just woke up. I recorded my dream as I do. It took about maybe 6 minutes because that's about how long it takes for me to record one of my dreams. Then I went to the bathroom and I was looking at myself in the mirror, and my nose started bleeding. It just out of nowhere just started.
That's so weird.
Yeah, it just started gushing down. And I put a couple of pieces of toilet paper in my nostrils, as you do. And then I just like leaned up against the side of my bathroom wall because I thought I was going crazy. Like I actually thought that I was going absolutely insane.
I bet.
Yeah, it was very, very freaky. Has anything like this ever happened to you, Marlon, where something like has happened while you were controlling some part of your dream and then you woke up and then something happened?
No,
Nothing
never.
like that. Never, not once.
Never.
Really? Yeah.
It's so interesting that you experienced that.
Yeah, there's another
Would you
instance.
say sorry, maybe you're going to share. Was it once, twice?
No. So another thing that happened that was just as freaky, if not freakier, because this didn't involve something regarding my body, was that I had a dream where I was at a park and there was a bunch of family there. And at one point, somebody brought out a cheese plate. Like it's one of those cheese plates that it's kind of like put in half and you can like slide it across it. I don't know if people don't even know what I'm going to talk about here, but yeah, you open it up and it reveals like a different
Like
compartment.
an extension. Okay.
Yeah. And so
I see what you mean, yeah.
it's a very unique cheese plate. And it was given to me as a gift a long time ago. This was in my dream. It was a lovely lucid dream. I was just enjoying myself. I was having a picnic. I didn't want to leave the party. Right. And then I woke up and I went into my kitchen to make some tea. And that cheese plate, this gift that I was given, was in my dish rack. And I don't sleepwalk, but this happened. And that's like a really, really weird one for me. And that was one where like I sat down on my couch and was just like, okay, am I actually going insane? Or is it could just be sleepwalking, but I very definitely don't think so. Like I did not use that cheese plate the day before.
Right.
I always put my dishes away before going to bed. You've seen my place. I keep my place nice and tidy. I'm like a tidy person. But that one still to this day is just like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
That's so
bizarre.
Yeah.
Do you ever struggle to know the difference between reality and dream world?
I do. Yeah. I actually really, really do. That's the thing about reality checks. It's maybe like the double-edged sword thing with the reality check stuff, because there will be times where it's when I want to lucid dream, because recently my dreaming has been bad. Like it's been real bad. Basically since February of 2020, my dreaming has been really terrible. The way that I described it to Eric Wargo when he was on my show was that it was like a fire hydrant that normally would just like be producing a ton of water was just like
Yeah.
shut off. Like, and
Right.
in February 2020, no more dreams for you for a while. I'm okay
Right.
now. Like I think I can remember my dreams about 3 to 4 nights a week now.
Okay.
But for about 6 months, I had like no dreams. There are times when I will be very, very trepidatious about something that will happen in my dream, more specifically because it's what I'm paying attention to now. More so, I'm paying attention to thoughts of precognitive abilities because of Reading Time Loops by Eric Wargo. I'm looking more for those instances in my dreams that I've recorded that if they will happen in real life, as if I was able to in some way see the future, right?
Right.
So my attention is more geared towards that right now. So it's less of me being on the lucid dream bus these days. But when I am doing the whole lucid dream where I want to try and lucid dream at least once or twice a week, yeah, differentiating between what is real and what is imagined is sometimes difficult. It's not dangerous. It's just that it can get a bit iffy sometimes, particularly when you are doing as many reality checks as I'm doing. Yeah, so it does get very, very odd, and even more so when you do the wake-induced lucid dreaming, that one that kind of where you are conscious and then you slide into being conscious in a dream. That's when things get really, really strange. But yeah,
that's quite interesting, there, Doug.
Yeah, I'm an interesting guy. I don't know if you've listened to my show. It's pretty good. But this actually has huge implications as far as dreaming and reality that people within these closed groups, they talk about how something will happen. They will hurt themselves in their dream, not just like, oh, I hurt my shoulder, but like an actual malady, like a cut or hurting something very specific or a burn even happening in their dreams. And they wake up and then they have it there and it's real. It's not something that they did to themselves, hopefully.
Right.
But yeah, these groups, they're very tight knit for a reason because in some way they're scared of when they talk about these things, some people will think that they might actually be crazy or they're all lunatics or the worst is that they're all just making it up. It's a group of people that are like in a sewing circle and then they're creating stories to try and one up each other. Right. And so it's just not true. Right. Truthfully, there is a specific reason why these people, they don't want to get tested because fear being judged, truthfully.
It's too bad.
It is too bad. No, certainly is. Now, here's something I think that you might be interested in. Within these small groups, a lot of them have also been experimenting with healing while in lucid dreams. There's one person who talks about a situation where I think she tore her Achilles tendon, which is a horrible injury. Like if you tear your Achilles tendon, if you're in sports, either in track and field or hockey or basketball, that's like a 6 to 8 month recovery.
Yeah.
And this person was talking about how in her lucid dream state that she would go in and then she would look at her Achilles tendon and almost like unzip a part of her foot with like a zipper and reach inside. And she was like pulling out nuts and bolts and like screwdrivers and stuff like that and putting them to the side. And apparently the doctor said it was a miraculous healing. It healed up like weeks before it was supposed to. So that's one.
Yeah, she had screws and bolts in there.
Well, in the dream world.
Yeah, I know.
There's also the fact that some of these people are trying to heal other people, and they've been experimenting with meeting people in their life who have an affliction and then going in and healing them in their lucid dreams, and then those people recover faster. Like, it's so bizarre. It's so strange. And it's for somebody involved in lucid dreaming, I think this would be like something really cool. You said once that sometimes when you're in a lucid dream, like you will actually go through some of the, because I hope I'm not doxing you, but you are a nurse.
Yes.
That you will go through like the process of how to put in a suture or something like that in your lucid dream world.
Yeah. I mean, oftentimes you get to practice certain things in these lucid dreams. And some people would even say sometimes they practice their big speeches that they have to give. For me, when I was having a lot of lucid dreams in a period of time during nursing school, you'd go through a process of how to remove sutures or different skills techniques because you were tested on these processes and how to perform them. So you would go over it in your lucid dreams, and the next day I'm able to retain a lot of it.
Yeah. So that's something cool to lean into, though.
It's like studying in your dreams.
That's amazing, though. Right?
It is, yeah. Yeah.
Like, I find that amazing. Like, I hope you do as well. I'm not trying to
it really is amazing, because you'd think that you would forget this aspect of the dream, but you don't. You actually retain the material.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I think there's so much that you can lean into. You have this superpower, Marlon. You just don't know it.
If there's a third episode, maybe we'll know a lot more.
Yeah. There has to be. Be. This is the weird shit that we talk about. There's some other weird stuff. I don't want to put in another time loops alert here, but there is this idea of precognition through lucid dreaming, and people have reported that they'll have an event in their lucid dream where they just feel like they're a witness to something, and then it will happen. There's also this idea of clairvoyance in lucid dream. Somebody was in one of these lucid dream groups. They were talking about how he was trying to experiment with being clairvoyant, and his friend was like, then why don't you find out where my birthmark is on my body? He went, sure. So he went home that night. He went to sleep, had a lucid dream. He met this person who was a woman in his lucid dream, asked her to show him where her birthmark is. And she pointed to a place on her body. It was just like right above, I think, like her left buttock or something like that. And then he woke up. Next day he went to the woman. She's like, so have you found my birthmark? And he's like, yep. And he asked her to turn around, and then he put his finger right atop of her, on her lower back. And then she like lifted her shirt up, and it's like, yep. It was like a spot the size of a dime. He picked it like right immediately. So
that's very specific.
Yeah, very, very cool. Very, very, very interesting stuff there. But again, this is the weird shit. This is a show about the paranormal and the supernatural. You got to have it in there. There's something that I think I just want to talk about for a second here. And it's a lot of people talk about, specifically Robert Waggoner and Gateway to the Inner Self, about how you can meditate while in a lucid state and really help heal yourself, make yourself a better person through the idea of lucid dreaming. But there's also this idea of meeting ancestors or those departed in lucid dreams. Have you ever done this, Marlon? Have you ever talked to somebody who has passed away in your lucid dream? And how does it feel if you have?
Oh, I've spoken to my deceased grandparents, and it's always an emotional and a beautiful feeling afterwards. Yeah. I've never reached a place of meditation where I really felt like I truly meditated and got something out of it.
Right.
And oftentimes after having conversations with deceased grandparents, especially when they died when you were quite young and you didn't get to have, conversations with them as an adult or grow old with them, basically, you come out of it feeling, it's a somber feeling.
Right.
It's emotional, but it's also like an overwhelming weight lifted, almost like some sort of anxiety or weight lifted off of you, even though you didn't know that there was any weight there. For me, it's a somber, beautiful experience.
Yeah, and it's almost like you've actually just talked to them again, right?
Yeah, talking to them. I guess when you miss them too much.
Yeah, I have I'm not going to share too many details, but one of the most profound moments of my life was meeting somebody who was very, very important to me, who passed away before their time. And it wasn't my ambition to seek them out in my lucid dream. They just kind of appeared in my lucid dream. And it was like everything just stopped for us in the dream.
Right.
And it was just the two of us, and getting a bit emotional thinking about it. But yeah, it is an incredibly profound thing if you can talk to somebody who has passed away in your lucid dream. It is such a wonderful feeling, and
it's kind of like you're giving another opportunity, another chance.
Yeah, for sure. And it's something that I think that I myself, I think I have to do a little bit more of, because I'm pretty close with my ancestors and people that have passed away. I'm pretty tight with them. But I think that this is something that maybe I need to go this direction a little bit more, because it is incredibly profound. Like, it really is.
It's a difficult one too to face.
It is difficult, but when this one particular instance, again, not too much details, but when I woke up, I had felt more joy than I had felt in months. Like, it was such a joyous moment.
Right.
Not just having another opportunity to talk, but know that there's always that opportunity available, and that they are always there to look after us. So depends on what people's perspective on the dream world is. For me, the subjective and the objective are on a spectrum, right? Like, I don't think
Right.
that, like, if it's a dream, that it's fake. That's just
Right,
silliness.
right.
The
It's kind of
phenomenologist.
like you're controlling the narrative of this other person here.
Well, not just that. I actually truly do think, like, when somebody says, like, I had a dream, and somebody will reply, like, well, what wasn't real? It's like, well, fuck you. No, it is real in a sense to me. Like, it is as real sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like it seemed real. It's like, to me, I think a lot of my dream experiences are as real and as valid in a phenomenological way as my experiences in the real world, right? Like, so it just depends what people's view on what dreams can or should be, what they are, how you view imagination, what's real, what's not, like that kind of thing. I don't think it's as black as white as real, not real, objective, subjective.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Now, it's hard to get behind these crazy stories because they are just anecdotes. My stories, they're anecdotes. Marlon's stories, they're anecdotes. We haven't been put into a laboratory. Nobody's going through them. And especially these groups of lucid dreamers, they keep to themselves for a very specific reason. They're probably for several reasons. But to my knowledge, there are no tests being done on whether you can heal somebody through lucid dreams, whether you can become clairvoyant through lucid dreams, whether you can manifest nosebleeds, burn marks, or even a cheese dish or a cheese tray in your lucid dreams, because science has already relegated these things as being nonsense a long time ago. So why would we even go to a place that's already an epiphenomenon of the brain? Dreams, we know everybody dreams, but they're meaningless. They don't mean anything, right? So science and dreams, it's always been like a weird one. And even the studies of dream science, it kind of ebbs and flows. Sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's not. These days, I think it's a bit of heating up because about a week ago, on February 18th, 2021, which is very recent, there was a study that was just released on something called interactive dreaming, where they used that whole eye movement situation that Stephen LaBerge and the people from, I forget the names, from the University of Hull, where they would use eye movement to not only answer questions, but like solve math problems. I'll put it up in the show notes for people if they're really interested, because it is recent. That was last week that this study came out, that they asked one of the participants, I believe it was 36 of them. Only 18% of them could do this, by the way. So that's 1 out of every 5 of the people, the 36 could do this. But one of them was asked, like, what is 8 minus 6? And their eyes went left, right, which would count for 2, right? So this is interesting to say the least. And it sounds like they're going to go a little bit further with these studies, which is, I think, a very cool thing. So eventually, there might be a way of being able to actually interact a bit more with people besides just yes, no questions or asking them to memorize a pattern when they go into a lucid state. Marlon, I have to ask, have you ever thought of being a test subject for lucid dreaming at all in any research centers or anything like that?
I have, for like sleep purposes. I always thought that no one was interested, like you said, interested enough to want to find out about lucid dreaming or how they can measure that at all. Right. But as I'm learning right now, it is quite possible.
Yeah, there are sleep. I had an uncle who suffered massive night terrors, and I talked about it in one of my episodes, or it might have been a Patreon episode. But there are sleep centers, and I mean, I don't know so much about whether or not there are studies in and around where you and I are situated in Toronto and area, the GTA. But there's probably definitely at the University of Toronto, there's probably some kind of sleep studies going on with lucid dreaming at some point. I would hope, but
something to look up.
Yeah, something to look up. I think, because you have such a unique and interesting way that you lucid dream. I don't want to say you're wasting a talent, Marlon. You're wasting your gift. You're like a Jedi that doesn't know that they're a Jedi yet. But but if this happens every time you dream, if your normal is more than what most people can do, because again, the way that you lucid dream is so specific.
Very.
That is worth something.
It has slowed down a bit since, I would say, the pandemic happened, and I think that's because life kind of took a pause.
Yeah.
And other stressors were in the way.
Right.
I haven't been, in the past year, I haven't been lucid dreaming as much. Right. I don't know what that would be, but I'm associating it of life slowing down. But they're picking up again.
Yeah.
More and more.
I talked about it a bit with Eric Wargo, and he's like, everybody's dream state changed in 2020. Like everybody, the things were not normal. Some people dreamt more. Some people like myself dreamt less, to have like no dreams. Yeah, the last year has been a bit weird for everybody. So yeah, well, that's interesting. So just wrapping up here, Marlon, I think we have to stop this idea that dreams are meaningless, that it's just a dump of memories from the day's events. Like your body is just off gassing like a brain fart. This idea is truly terrible, and we need to stop it. I think that there is so much we need to investigate about dreams, like how quickly we put chips into the brains of pigs and monkeys and eventually human beings. Let's bring things back home. Let's take a look at the things that we already have, I'd say. We don't understand enough about our consciousness as is. Why do we need to go that extra step? Because it might be interesting in some weird technological way. We have technology available to us right now that we are not utilizing, that I think could tell us so much more about our consciousness as well as our unconscious activities.
Right.
I think this is fucking crucial for us right now. I think we could be surprised at just how much we learn. Dreams may say more about reality than our conscious introspections about reality. This is not boring stuff to me. This is incredibly important.
Right.
And dreams have been incredibly important to my life. I know that dreams are a bit of a burden for you, Marlon, but there are things that probably occur within your dream that I would hope that you're somewhat thankful for, right? Seeing your grandparents, right? Like this.
Oh, I'm thankful for the experiences for sure.
Yeah.
It's hard sometimes to stay thankful first thing in the morning when you wake up and you're feeling like you've had a 2-hour sleep out of the 9 hours you've been in bed.
Right.
But I recognize that some people see this as a gift and want to achieve it. And I am grateful for those really rare experiences I get to have. For sure. I think I've got a little studying to do.
Yeah, a little bit of work. I like though how you frame it as well. This is a bit of a diversion, but you talk about how it's just like a different reality. And
it is.
That's interesting. It's just like you live two lives.
I live two lives, and sometimes you wonder if that's an indicative of something going on in real life, and maybe it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very well could be. Regular dreams are amazing for those of us that can have them, but things like hypnopompia, the hypnagogia, as well as lucid dreaming will show us so much more about what we now consider to be occult or esoteric. Which isn't to say that it explains it away. More so, it expands us as individuals, as a species of dreamers amongst an orchestra of dreaming organisms on a dreaming planet in a living cosmos which itself dreams. That it is possible to have some kind of agency in an unconscious state is a gift. I truly think that. And we are rewarded when gifts are recognized, even if current paradigms tell us otherwise. So I really do think that it's time to dream on, to dream lucid, and to dream incandescently. So Marlon, I really want to thank you for sharing and for coming on the show a second time, a third time.
It's my pleasure, honestly.
Oh, thank you. But I hope you learned a bit, and I hope, I don't want to be this person that keeps badgering you, but I hope in some way that you can approach how you lucid dream with a bit more curiosity. And I know it's terrible because you have a job that requires you to be on your feet for hours and hours at a time. And the last thing you want is to be active when you're in a dream state is the last thing. But I think that maybe there are some directions that perhaps you can go to maybe find out a little bit more, not only about yourself, but about something that a lot of people would be really, really keen to experience, if only for a week, let alone a lifetime.
Right. And maybe this is my annoyance towards it as the result of how often it happens.
Yeah.
I think that if it occurred a lot less frequently, I should say, maybe I would have much more appreciation towards it. But I think I can gain that curiosity back by paying attention to the types of dreams I'm having, the settings, things I can and cannot control. There's a lot to focus on for sure.
Yeah. Some people have to learn how to lucid dream. You might just have to learn how to dream somewhat normally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But
for once, not be in control.
For once, not have to be Federico Fellini just wandering around and getting people to do the things that you want them to do. Yeah.
Exactly.
For those who are wary of things like hallucinogens or heavy spirit-based ritual magic, if you want a somewhat easy way to achieve things like epiphany moments, lucid dreaming is your best vector to get there. They are incredible. And it can be easy, but like magic, it just takes a lot of work, persistence, trial and error to figure out the thing that will work for you to get lucid. And I'll have some links to show notes and some resources on how to set yourself up to lucid dream. Everybody is different, so finding what works for you can be frustrating, but stick with it. You can do it. I believe in you. So those show notes are going to be available on whatmagicisthis.com. Yes, I have lots of show notes for my episodes. This one, they're going to be a little bit shorter. There's some great information out there, and lucid dreaming is a bit hot right now, but I've found the ones that I'm going to the people that really have something interesting to say about lucid dreaming. So there'll be some interesting show notes there, as well as interviews with Robert Wagner and Stephen LaBerge, as well as their books. So that'll be available at whatmagicisthis.com. Also there, you can find a way to subscribe to my podcast on iTunes or Spotify or Stitcher or any of those guys. If they have podcasts, I'm going to be listed. I also have my Twitter account, my Instagram account, and my Facebook account up on whatmagicisthis.com. If you enjoy the show, please tell a friend, and then they'll tell a friend, and then maybe that friend will dream about the show lucidly, and then they'll feel like telling their friend, and then they'll lucid. Anyway, it's a chain of lucid dreaming. That's how my show works. I'm infecting your dreams is what I want to say. But yes, if you enjoy the show, please tell a friend. Also, leave a review. I know the star clicky thing is fine for iTunes and whatnot, but if you write a couple of words about my podcast, that'd be greatly appreciated. People do read those reviews and they judge a podcast on those reviews. So let me know if you like the show. I have a Patreon account. Now, Marlon called my Patreon account something very funny. What did you call my Patreon when you first found out I had a Patreon?
Yeah, Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Terrible. Just terrible. They're doing good work. How dare you?
They are.
They are doing fantastic work. And I am not a charity. I enjoy what I do.
Exactly.
And if somebody wants to support, if one of my listeners feels like they want to support my work that I do, it's $7 a month. That's it. That's all. You either support or you don't. I put up extra content each and every month, 3 to 2 exclusive episodes, either audio or video. I do videos as well. It's really wonderful and it's fantastic. So if you think that I'm doing important work and you want to support in some way, please head to patreon.com/whatmagicisthis, or you can head to the website. There's a little button there. Just click on the button. They're all over the place. And you can support What Magic Is This. If you can't get enough of my voice already in my episodes, Patreon is a great place to go for those. If you don't like the whole subscribe to the Patreon and you just want to support the show in another way, I have a PayPal Me button on there. It's 2 P's just plastered over each other. They're blue, different colors of blue. You know the PayPal logo. We all know logos. Yes, PayPal. Just click that. You can donate $5 to $10 to $20 to $5,000. Make my wish come true. And yes, support the show if you feel like it. But that's it. That's the episode. Marlon, thank you so much. I got to end the show with a post-show quid pro quo. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
So I'm going to ask like a variant of the last question that I asked you the first time. So the first time I asked you a question about if you could have that lucid dream where you could change everything in your lucid dream, but that would be real. By dreaming, you could change the world you live in, your actual waking reality. So that was the first question that I asked. And your answer was pretty good.
Yeah.
But I got to ask you, what if there was one thing that you could bring from the real world into your lucid dreams each and every time you want to?
That's so interesting because both sides appear to be so alike, but I'm sure there's so much different.
Yeah.
Maybe reflection.
I'm going to try reflection.
Yeah, I want to see if I can achieve that.
Not your dog.
I know it seems so
small. Do you dream
small.
about your dog?
No.
Yeah, that's one. A lot of people don't dream.
I'd bring one.
Yeah.
At first I was going to say some sort of like emotional touching and like compassion to feel that, because I often feel because you're this God complex, this director that's directing things, I actually don't remember feeling a lot of feelings within the dream.
Oh.
Yeah.
I feel
it's mostly afterwards when I'm awake.
Okay. So that's strange because I have pretty much in lucid dream, in varying degrees, I can feel things, smell things, taste things, touch things in my. It's really odd. So you don't have the touch thing, eh?
I don't have any of that. You know, I got to pay attention. It's really, now that I mention it, it's really boggling my mind. Like, how have I not paid attention to touching or smelling something?
Yeah. No, seriously.
I've definitely eaten in my dreams, and I've been around, gardens and beaches and,
Right.
where you're able to smell.
Yeah. But you've
Yeah.
never had something where you've tasted?
Not that I recall now.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of start noticing a bit more if you can.
Yes. Episode 3.
Yes, episode 3 indeed. The Adventures of Marlon in Dreamland. Thank you so much for being on this show. Definitely going to have you back on the
Thank
show
you.
at some point in the next year or two. But Marlon, and thank you again for your patience for coming back on and doing this a second time on the podcast Mulligan.
Oh, for sure. I had 2 times the fun.
There we go. twice as much fun.
Yeah.
Marlon, thank you so much again. And yes, that's the show, everybody. So come on back. We'll talk about more of the dream a little dream that is What Magic Is This? And until then, I want you all to stay healthy, stay hopeful, and stay luminous. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye, everybody. Say bye, Marlon.
Goodbye. Sweet dreams.
Yes, indeed. Pleasant dreams, everybody. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.